strongest because you're Satoru Gojo? Or are you Satoru Gojo because you're the strongest?
Jujutsu Kaisen constantly challenges the idea that talent and being gifted are the prime factors in what makes someone who they are. And the biggest example of that is Satoru Gojo is the pinnacle of strength in the Jujutsu world. So much so that his birth caused the balance of the world to change and forced curses to become stronger just to keep up with him. He was born with the 6 eyes and the powerful limitless technique, which should make him the strongest person on the planet, and for a long time, he is. But his perspective changes when he's on a mission and is presumably killed by Toji Zenin, a sorcerer without any cursed energy, but a heavenly restriction. But because of all that, he's able to be written off by most. But after Toji defeats Gojo's best friend Suguro Geto, and kills the girl they were supposed to be protecting that he learned to care for, Riko Amanai, he's left with a ghost of a dead man.
Hey there. It's been a while, huh? Are you for real? I'm for real. Our fight is just getting started. Huh? Is that right? You could be right. You're so right!
After perfecting his curse technique and killing Toji Zenin with his new move, Satoru Gojo's left there, realizing his full potential, realizing the gift he was born with. That hand that fate dealt him was a good one, and the lives of others are in his hands now. It was previously established that Gojo believed that the weak should exist to serve the strong, while Suguro Geto believed the exact opposite. And while Suguro Geto had convinced Gojo out of killing the cult members, in a matter of a few months their ideals began to swap. Geto killing everyone in his home village in the belief a world exclusively comprised of sorcerers would be a perfect one. And so Gojo confronts him, and there it is, he asks him that dreaded question.
Do you think you're the strongest because you're Satoru Gojo? Or are you Satoru Gojo because you're the strongest?
Is Satoru Gojo without his power? Is the strength of the blade irrelevant without a good wielder? Well, once Gojo is freed from his capture in the prison realm at the end of the Culling Games arc, he's put up against someone. The only other person who could stand with Satoru Gojo on equal footing. And for once, Gojo is able to battle with someone who truly understands his loneliness. Someone who understands the isolation of being at the top, being alone at the top. After all, he put it best.
Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one.
After a long, hard, equally matched battle, Sukuna wins by a hair, killing Gojo with his trump card, the world-cutting slash. Not only did this moment subvert fan expectations, but cause the fandom to go into panic mode and force the entire manga community to pay attention. But most of all, it changed the status quo. But why am I bringing this up? Because in the final arc of the show, in the battle against Sukuna, Yuta Okotsuku is severely injured and takes Kenjaku's technique to take Gojo's corpse and use it as his own. Before doing so, he had lashed out at the others for always letting Gojo become the monster. No one ever saw Gojo as a friend, nobody but Geto. When asked to define him, no one ever mentions the word friend. Yuta knew this. He knew Gojo was only seen for his technique and his strength. But when Yuta shows up to the battlefield in Gojo's body, he doesn't compare to the real Gojo. He can't fight like him, he can barely use his techniques, and Yuta unknowingly subscribed to the belief that he had yelled at the others for having. That he is Satoru Gojo because he's the strongest. That he is Satoru Gojo because he's the strongest. If not for his strength, no one would go as far as taking his body. Even his wording of becoming the monster is itself hypocritical. Gojo was powerful, but he was never a monster, was he? Yuta ultimately fails to contribute much but stalling time for the others in Gojo's body. And this is when the age-old question is finally answered. It was never the technique that made Gojo who he was. It was him. It was always him. He had learned to have Infinity on 24/7. It was him who learned Hollow Purple. It was him who was the strongest. If not for his determination and his unbridled need to cling to survival, he wouldn't have lived as long as he did. Satoru Gojo didn't win all of the battles because he was gifted. Satoru Gojo won them off of his skill. While he never killed Sukuna, he did solve the ridiculous riddle that's been lying dormant in his brain ever since the moment they slipped from Geito's mouth. And for being killed by the only other person who understands his loneliness from being the strongest, Satoru Gojo reunites with his best and only friend in heaven. But if it wasn't Satoru Gojo who defeats Sukuna, who does? Well, it was a team effort, but who ultimately defeats him is Yuji Tadori is a character that by fans has always been overshadowed by the more popular characters in the show like Satoru Gojo. And despite being the main character of the series, people constantly say that Gojo has always been more of a main character than him. And I believe that was by design. Yuji Itadori is born with above average strength, but he doesn't really do much with it. But it's only once he makes a conscious choice to ingest Sukuna's finger that he's seen by the Jujutsu world. I mean, I want to do a video on Yuji eventually, so I'm skipping over like a lot of his character development because I want to get to the reason I bring him up. Yuji, compared to someone like Satoru Gojo, is not gifted. Despite his above average strength, he's born with no cursed energy, no cursed technique, and he's a normal human who can just see curses. But even after Yuji becomes a sorcerer, after some time, Sukuna takes over Megumi Fushiguro's body. Yuji is still a capable fighter, but despite everything that made him worth thinking about to most people in the Jujutsu world being stripped from him, he remains a sorcerer. In fact, he constantly outperforms people who should be stronger than him. Yet he prevails, not because of his talent, it's because of his mindset. He achieves a cursed technique on his own. He tries a unique way of training to quickly rise in skill. The random kid everyone initially overlooked rose through the ranks. But even though Yuji Itadori isn't the strongest character in the series, Satoru Gojo tells Yuji he wants him to become stronger than him in different ways than he was. And he has. He's made several friends and found himself surrounded by people he loves, just like he promised his grandpa he would. And no matter what happens to Yuji, he always gets back up. Even though at times he needs a little push, he ends up pulling through. It's not Yuji Itadori's natural talent that makes him who he is. It's his skill, his determination and training that let him pull through. And instead of solely depending on his own skill to win, like Gojo attempted against Sukuna, he's willing to work with people. He's so good at working with people, in fact, that his final team up with Nobara ends up landing the final hit on Sukuna, with one final black flash, a move he learned from a friend. That's Yuji's biggest strength, that he has over all the other strong characters in the verse. All of the strongest characters in Jujutsu Kaisen are completely individualistic. They prefer working alone and take on most fights completely alone, even when they shouldn't. And while an argument could be made about Gojo's battle with Sukuna being so destructive, people likely would have been caught in the crossfire or just get in the way. So, what's the idea I'm trying to push here? Talent doesn't make you who you are. A large majority of people with skills don't come out of the womb good at them. It takes time, effort, practice. Start that project, pick up that pen, do whatever it is you want to do with your life, and don't envy people who are better than you. Like I said in my last video, you never know how much practice it took to get there. No, you don't know how many struggles, how many defeats. And I know this is a corny line and it gets tossed around over and over, but life isn't a race, it's a marathon. So get off the damn bench and run, limp, crawl, do whatever you need to keep moving forward. No matter who or what gets in your way, do not stop. After all, in just a few months, Yuji Itadori went from a regular high schooler to the strongest.
Two hands meet at zenith, nothing comes between us.